Good morning, students. This is Arindam here, and today our topic is the adventure of Tom Sawyer. In my previous presentations, I have covered the first 22 chapters and tried to give you a brief explanation or rather an idea about the story, uh, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. So, today we are moving to chapter number 23 and 24, and I will try to explain the next few chapters and try to give you some details of it. So, what we have here in chapter number 23 and 24. So, at last, Mock Potter trial arrives. So, Mock Potter, I hope you remember this particular fellow. He is innocent, but he was also a kind of antisocial who was involved with Injunjo and happens to be present on the murder site of Dr. Robinson, and Injunjo framed him, and he was accused of murder of Dr. Robinson. I hope you remember that particular thing, which the sole, the sole, what should I say, witness of that incident was two characters only, apart from Injunjo. The other two characters are Huck and Tom. Both of these boys were there. So it is the soul absorbing story of the entire town. Everyone was talking about it, about the incident which was conducted by Mark Potter, reportedly conducted by Mark Potter, but actually it was Injunjo who was responsible for that murder. So every report about the trial makes Tom shudder. Tom was feeling inside, and he finds Huck Finn is ordered to reassure himself that Huck has told no one, and they actually took this oath that they will not reveal that who killed Dr. Robinson, but their silence was costly, and it was about to cost the life of Ma Potter himself. So they were, feeling some kind of guilty. So Huck Fair tells Tom that he will tell only when he decides, and he wants Injun Joe to drown him, for he knows that they will not be alive for 2 days if they reveal what they know. So if they also were threatened, because they know very well that if the moment they inform others, they share the secret to the other people that it was Injun Joe who killed Dr. Robinson, then immediately Injun Joe will be after them, and chances are there that he might harm these two boys. So Tom and Huck discuss about the rumors going on the town, and it is obvious that Ma Potter will be convicted and executed. That day, at that time, trial used to be like this, and Muff had performed for them and agreed that Muff is basically a harmless drunk. So he's the kind of person who is alcoholic, obviously, but he's not kind of criminal. He's not that kind of person. So he's not a hardened villain. The boys, they were deciding what to do. So there are many things going on there. They take various items such as tobacco to Marv's jail. They were trying to meet him, and they actually provided him tobacco to comfort him. Marv tells the boys how kind and remember all the good things about them. Tom and Huck leave Muff. They were feeling, both of them were feeling guilty and miserable. They were unhappy with these incidents, that because of their silence, Muff will be punished. So on the first day of the trial, prosecutor provided the necessary evidence and witness also, and that shows that Muff is the murderer, and defense attorney doesn't even cross-examine. The town people were dissatisfied with the defense's attorney throwing away his client's life without an effort. So Tom and Huck avoided going into the courtroom. Obviously, they could not see this side, that a harmless person, an innocent person, was about to be punished. So at that night, Tom was late, and the very next day, after the closing remark of the prosecutor, defense attorney changes his plea surprisingly. He calls Tom Sawyer to the witness and asks where Tom was hiding on the night of the murder. Tom hardly answered, but finally reveals he was hiding only a few feet away from the murder scene. This is a big revelation. They actually took this oath not to reveal about this murder, not to talk about this murder, and they are not supposed to disclose anything on that. But Tom somehow he informed, and that's why he was asked to be a witness. And there Tom speaks freely and he describes the entire thing. Everyone was assured that whatever Tom said is true. And the moment it happens, when he was about to reach the climax of his story, Injun Joe escapes the court because he knows very well that Tom is about to describe his name or describe his activity in that particular on that particular night, how he killed Dr. Robinson. And Tom revelation the fickle town, which had openly condemned Mark Potter, now takes his takes him to its bosom. So because of Tom's evidence, Tom's statement, the people who were actually condemning Mark Potter previously, they soothed Mark Potter, and the description is to its bosom. Once more, Tom is the glittering hero. Again, Tom is now the hero, and every boy was envying him. They were jealous how Tom was getting all the attention. While Tom days are ones of exclusion and praise, his nights are horrors. He was totally afraid. He was very much, horrified with this idea that Injun Joe might appear and he might attack him. His dreams, he was having dreams, nightmares, and he will not leave home after dark. So even Huck's name was mentioned in the court. Huck still is afraid what of the involvement will get because of his confidence in the human race as well as well nigh obliterated. Rewards are often offered for Engine Joe, so there has been a reward. If anybody find Engine Joe, then there will be a reward. St. Louis detective arrives and leaves, but Engine Joe is not found, so he left. He was absconding. After some time, Tom fears abates somehow. So after some time, Tom was confident and he started to live normal life. So that happened in chapter 23 and 24. Let's move to chapter 25 and 26. So what happened? So now we know that Mark Potter is not the criminal, or is not the murderer. Actually, Injun Joe is the murderer. So there comes a time in everybody's life when he feels need to dig for buried treasure. Now it happens in our childhood days also. We used to visit those haunted house, or those houses are which are empty, like we have in Kamluk Rajbari. We have another Jamindar's place in close to our home where we used to stay. We used to visit with our friends, and we were looking for like Guptadhan. We were looking for some kind of treasure hiding there. But actually, there is nothing. Nothing is there. But still, this is what we childrens, being childrens, childrens do. They always are looking for the very idea of treasure. The very idea of Guptadhan is very much it's a very characteristics of every child. They normally look for these things. So Tom was also doing things like that with Huck Finn, and Huck is available for any adventure. He is a vagrant boy. So Tom explains in details that what he is looking for, what he is going to do. So he find a mysterious map and instructs proper haunted place and where to look for them, and so that they can find immense fortunes, immense things like that. Huck claims that he will spend his fortune on eating and enjoyment because his pap will take it all from him when he finds out about it. So, Huck, when they were discussing if we find any treasure or any Guptadhan like that thing, what he will do. So, Huck said that he will do what? He will spend his fortune on eating and enjoyment because his pap will take all away from him. So that's why he wants to enjoy things, and he want to utilize that fund for that. Tom is much more conventional. He is kind of smart also. He said that I will save some of the fortune for a marriage. So the Tom was actually, Tom is having affair with that girl. So that's why he was thinking about marriage also. The boys hike into the forest, and there they dig several holes and finding nothing, no treasure they find. So they must wait until midnight. They hide their tools and plan to meet at midnight. So a bewitching hour. So this is like a midnight adventure for these two boys, and they were looking for kind of adventure. So they dig under a special tree behind Widow Douglas' house. So they meet at a particular appointed time and begin their digging there. So at the end of the shadow cast by the moonlight at midnight, thus signifying the presence of buried treasures. So after an hour, Tom again decides that they are digging in the wrong spot. They need to move somewhere else. Actually, there is nothing. They are just what we say is spending time and having the taste of adventure over there. So they decide to dig at a haunted house that no one ever goes around. So they believe that, like we did in our childhood also. So they were looking for that particular house, haunted house, which was close by, and they are not eased with dead folks quotes or supernatural events such as strange blue lights coming from the house. They decide to do their digging at the daytime. So next day, Friday the 13th, the boy started out for the haunted house, and they were fully aware of the dangers on this particular day. Furthermore, Huck, it was 13, 13. Careful, 13 is ominous. 13 is considered to be unlucky. So, some people say, na, unlucky 13. So, on that day, they were looking for this adventure, they were looking for this treasure. So, furthermore, Huck has a bad dream and about rats. So we also have this kind of what we say intuition. If we see any dreams like that, where we see snakes, rabbits, or rats, things like that, then it has its own meaning. We interpret it. There is no scientific evidence, or there is no science about it, but it is the faith, it is the belief. So Saturday, Tom and Huck spend the afternoon playing Robin Hood instead. So on Saturday, the boys meet again on the haunted house on Cardiff Hill. After digging a bit, they decide to go into the haunted house, peeking inside to find something. They're about to descend. Suddenly, Tom and Huck hear voices downstairs. So they're on the first floor, and suddenly they hear some voices, and they were looking for it. Who are this person? And they saw there's a deaf and dumb Spaniard who has been seen around town a few times. A news deaf and dumb Spaniard appeared, and when he begins to talk, the boys recognize him. It is actually Injun in disguise. So I told you earlier in the last chapter, Injun left the courthouse. He escaped the courthouse to avoid trials. Now he was in disguise. He took the disguise of what? He took the disguise of Spaniard, deaf and dumb Spaniard. So they do not. So that's why they do not. People do not recognize him. There was another man also. They do not know who this person is. So the two men were talking about some kind of robbery, and Injunjo mentioned about revenge he must perform. Though Injunjo and his companion eat and then fall asleep, the boys are too afraid to attempt an escape. By Injunjo and his companion awake and decide to bury a packet about 600 silver coins. So 600 silver coins is a big amount that they have stolen. So actually they were hiding there for to know the amount they stole. So while digging a hole, they discover a metal box. See, actually there was treasure, but Tom and Huck was unable to find it, and it was in the hand of Injun Joe, and found that there is gold coins inside, thousands of dollars. So that means it's a real treasure. So Tom and Huck was really excited. They saw all the things, and they planned to shift that treasure. Injun Joe planned to ship the newfound treasure, the golden coins, to somewhere else. Tom and Huck keep a sharp lookout what they are going to do and where they are hiding. They realize that the revenge is against them, at least against Tom. So they were afraid about it. Now, in chapter 27, 28, we find the next morning Tom went to see Huck and reaffirmed the money and the adventure they experienced the day before is real. It is not a dream. And they decide they will find day number 2. Tom discovers number 2 is lived by a young lawyer, and other number 2 is a room in the Temporary Tavern which is kept locked except at night. So Tom decides that he and Huck will take all the keys they can find, and on a dark night see what's inside number 2. At the Temporary Tavern, there's a Soraikana. Tavern means a place where visitors used to stay. If either sees Injun Joe, he is to follow him in the hopes of discovering the hiding place. So on a dark night, Huck stands guard while Tom tries to enter Temperance Tavern door. Suddenly, Tom comes running down the alley and calling Huck to follow him. They take refuge in a slaughterhouse just as a tremendous rainstorm begins. Tom explains his fear. The keys would not work. He was trying to open it through the doorknob, but no, nothing happened. Step aside. Tom almost stepped on Injun Joe's outstretched hand. There, Injun Joe was lying there. Half-breed was passed on the floor with an empty bottle of whiskey beside him. So Tom found that Injun Joe was drunk. He was lying there. Tom suggests that they should go back and look for the cache of gold coins, but Huck is more practical. So when he found that there were three empty bottles of whiskey instead of only one, maybe he would go back. But now Injun Joe might wake up after only one bottle of whiskey. So the boy decide not to try the room again until Injun Joe is gone. They make arrangements for Huck to watch at night. During the day, he can sleep in Ben Rogers' hayloft. Tom and Huck also decide not to disturb each other unless something important happens. So that means Injun Joe has been found by these two boys, but they never mentioned about it. And they were having their own adventure. They found the deaf Spaniard, dumb and deaf Spaniard is none other than Injun Joe himself, and plus he is hiding treasures. These two boys are after him, and soon in the next few chapters we will find some interesting story about it. Till then, thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel. Goodbye.